Sergeant Stepdad here. I'm not going to be reviewing an item today due to how my last weekend went and the fact that I also don't have anything right now to review. But I'm going to talk to you about last weekend because it was one of my military drill weekends. I'm not going into full details, but I'm going to start from the beginning. Well, I get to the unit about 5 o'clock in the morning. And was informed, we got asked who had a license to drive a military vehicle. Me and another one person rose our hands, and we were ended up going to drive. Me and that individual were both driving a Humvee with another individual up to where we were going for our training. There was 3 vehicles, 2 Humvees and a 5-ton, which is, you can call almost like a box truck style vehicle. Um, well, everything gets loaded up. Well, as we're loading up, the medics learned that their medical gear was packed up. I should actually mention that our unit is shutting down, so the unit I'm with right now is shutting down, so they're starting to pack things up. But their stuff got packed up before this training, which was a range weekend, plus being out in the field. So they had to actually piece together enough for an actual bag that they can use at the range, which what they had was enough to make sure no one would die if they were to get hit or shot. Well, were to get hit by a vehicle or shot, pretty much. Um, so everything's back there. The buses for the rest of the soldiers got there. Then my TC and all the other vehicles and their drivers in the TC got ready to load it up in the trucks. And we started heading out. I was the lead vehicle, and I get onto the actual interstate and realize that the other trucks are not behind me. I slow down to 55 to let them catch up. Nothing. I drive 55 most of the way there, and then I end up going to the speed limit. And I get to the range because that's where we stopped. We were stopping at for we're going to be dropped off, buses and everything, and waiting. Like 20 minutes later, the commander shows up, which he was driving his own vehicle, and a lot of the upper, like a lot of the chain of command drove their own vehicles, and they just started. Then everyone just started slowly showing up. Buses showed up. It turns out the Humvee, the other Humvee, had transmission issues, which caused it to only be able to drive 45 miles an hour. We just started joking about it and all, da. Then we did some training, we were the simulated range, and once I was done, I got asked to if I was able to go out and go to the 5-ton because they were heading out to the field to drop stuff off. I learned on the way out there that something went wrong with the brakes. They thought they welded the brakes shut, but I know, and we went out there. They told me which way to go. Da da da. Got out there. They had unhooked the water buffalo. This this field is out. This area is out just out in the middle, almost nowhere, and on base. They were just standing around waiting. We started loading up stuff onto the Humvee. It was like food, random stuff that was needed out in the field, a large tent for the command tent. And we loaded it, moved it, and it took a couple times. Then those of us that were out there, we set up our cots where we were at. We set up the tent, the large tent. We started setting up our individual tents. I mean, they call them cot tents, which is a small one-man tent you can sit on top of a military issue cot. Now, my gear was still back where they dropped the rest of the gear off, so I helped those around me set up their tents, their tent cots, and then I forgot to mention we had to hook the water buffalo up to my Humvee. And once my Humvee was parked with the water buffalo, that's where it stayed the whole time until we left. But I maintained my motivation, And at night, it was extremely hot. Extremely hot. I did what I could to keep myself cool. I mean, got the tent open a bit. So here's the tent. This is how the flaps were. I opened this side, the sides open, but there are also covers on those corners. Kept those open, let it breeze through. I brought like a million different power packs. 3 of them had solar chargers attached to them, and I loaned them out. There was some of them out to soldiers that needed them. I mean, I went and played Uno that night with a couple soldiers. It's always fun. You gotta make your own fun in those areas, and I really enjoyed it. And it didn't matter their rank. We just played Uno. I mean, it doesn't even matter what the rank is when it comes to kind of finding things for morale. If soldiers are playing poker and I'm betting, I'll play poker with them, or spades, or hearts, whatever you want to call it, or hearts, card games, or throwing a frisbee around. But then the next day we started off with our range stuff. The 0, which I did my normal, which took a little bit, but not too much. Then we have to walk from the 0 range all the way down to the qualifying range, which you guys gotta be aware that can happen, because sometimes those ranges are a distance apart. And I mean, you can do a lot of walking. I mean, we didn't have to walk from the field to the range. And you want to know how this happened? It wasn't the Humvee. All the pretty much chain of command that brought their vehicles shelled us from their field to the range, or to Chow, because for some reason they had the Chow Hall on the base in a building. So yes, that was one nice thing about having all the vehicles. We could have heat and or AC when transportation. Early morning. Um, but if the 5 ton had not broke down, we'd be riding in the back of that. But now back to the whole range. We would walk, and it was, I could almost say it maybe had been 3/4 of a mile to the next range. But I was carrying my gear, my range gear, my and wet weather gear, extra my food and my rifle from the zero range to the qualified range. And this is gonna be one of those things where I'm not gonna throw the base under a bus, but they're these ranges sometimes are not the greatest. That so, but you can't always blame not qualifying on the range because let's just say the range I was at, they did not. Some of the targets were kind of Swiss cheeses ish, or shadowed enough that it's hard to see the target. But I did qualify, and I had one of those at this range. I mean, barely qualified. There's a lot of people that didn't, but it just took some time. But my unit does the first fire in order and second fire order, and the first fire order fires while the second fire order is the safety, and then they swap out. Well, when the other buddy was firing, had a couple turkeys walk across this lane. The tower was not paying attention when I was trying to signal them to ceasefire because last time I knew that's what you do when wildlife was crossing the range. They did not see me or did not even acknowledge. But the person that was in my lane shooting, they did not shoot at the animal, which may have be part of the reason why they did not qualify. But did not shoot the animal, and they let him cross. And I'm surprised they didn't take off. They just walked on by, like nothing was going on. And after that, at my turn, I qualified. And always be prepared to pick up brass. I know some shammer. These, I think it's Dirtbag Private persona of Angry Cops. Needed to add a little something on his brass pickup. When it comes to 9mm, make sure you pick up the right 9mm that matches. Because when we were picking up brass, we had to find the 9mm with a red circle around the primer. We found 40 Smith & Wesson, 45, 9mm, 223. All sorts of brass out there. So nickel shells, brass shells. So make sure if you're gonna bring brass, if you find the right brass, you'll be fine. But if you have law enforcement shooting at your ranges, like this at this range, you may be able to find extra brass yourself. Like we found enough to cover what we had to take back return because when in the army you have to make sure you have collected every single 9mm round shot. But we found enough for that. We found enough for 3 more boxes worth of 9mm. I think someone took it to took that knowledge that I got from dirtbag private slash angry cops, and kept the extra matching 9mm. So, and we actually shot the M17, which is the new Army standard issued handgun, or 9mm. Since we're an MP unit, we have access to them. But this whole time, my truck sat, the water buffalo sat. They were bringing out water coolers just to make sure we had water. Right, and then the last day, which was Monday, we took the Army's new ACFT, the Army Combat Fitness Test, and according to what I was told, what I've seen is I passed it. I've kind of forget some things that I need to pass. And if you get married, sometimes you'll find your wife's hair in strange places. But my muscles were killing me after that. But we had to pack everything up. I mean, what I did was I took my tent down. I got up early that morning and took my tent down. That's me. I took my tent down, had everything packed, left it sitting on the cot. They ended up loading it up and bringing it to where the bus would be at. So they got packed up in the bus because I was actually returning ammo at the time after the ACFT, which we still sometimes find live rounds in the 223. So that's always one thing to be on the eye out. Make sure you have all the live rounds out. So we get everything packed up. I get back out there to get the Humvee. They had ended up loading my bag on the bus, but they had actually got the 5-ton brakes unstuck, and they had hooked the water buffalo up to it. But my truck had trash in it, so I had to drop it off at a dumpster. So they followed me out to the dumpster. Me and my TC threw the trash in the dumpster. Then we go to head back out. We get behind the 5-ton because it was blocking our route out of the parking lot we were in. Then we followed it. It gets to a stop sign a short ways down the road. Brakes lock up again. They try to get the brakes unstuck. Couldn't. And the local units, one of the local units, the one that people drove by and asked if they having issues and if we got hold of AHA. Our chain of command had actually also showed up, so they went and talked to them, and ended up someone from the local AHA came up, and we decided that we were going to take the water buffalo back off the 5-ton and rehook it up to my Humvee. Now, these water buffaloes, I should say, are not light at all, and a Humvee cannot fully carry a fully filled water buffalo. You can only pull an empty one in dire situations. It's the last resort to move a water buffalo. So we unhooked it, and we had to rehook it up to my truck. Now, the water buffalo does have air brakes on it, but it doesn't. The Humvee does not have air brakes. So you got all this weight on a Humvee trying to get the water buffalo back, and it's probably around roughly 50 to 60 miles to get to where it needs to go. depending on routes you take and all that. Well, I wasn't upset driving it back. I actually had fun. Just driving around. Mm. We take our time. We drive slow. I drive through back roads all the way to the interstate because I didn't want to drive through a heavily populated area. Because, in my opinion, that's an accident waiting to happen. Get on the interstate. Get back. The other truck had left before us. So they managed to get back actually before we did because they left way early. We get back, and then there's no one out in the motor pool. Well, except for the people pushing the Humvee back to where it goes because it didn't have reverse either. So, and they just walk inside without with us just sitting outside the gate waiting to get into the motor pool. Someone comes over, actually sees us, comes over, and they don't have the code. So they had to go get someone to get the code for us to get in. Well, they got the UA of the unit, the individual that's usually there all the time, to actually full on open the gate. So we pull in, and I get the water buffalo swinged around to where it should go, but I needed to back it up. And since there's only two of us, can't really back up. We tried to take it off to back it up. Couldn't do it. It takes at least three people to get that lifted up, the legs wooden down, and pushed back to where it goes. And then we back in the Humvee back in the spot. And usually you got about this much space between the mirrors. Usually we do. Well, I had maybe that much space between the mirrors on the driver's side, so I had to climb over the hump in it and climb out the passenger rear seat, rear door, then lock it all up. And I was not discouraged at any time during this. I'm gonna put it this way: if you get asked to drive a truck, one of the trucks, do it, because it's fun. You don't have to deal with all those loud, annoying people on the bus. You just got to deal with the noise of the truck and our TC or the driver. And let's be honest, I choose people that I know a bit more to drive. That has my TCs. I mean, there's been one person I would love to have there, but he didn't come to that drill. But I'm gonna say it this way: if you're a lower enlisted, volunteer to do stuff. It gives you the experience, and you gain a lot of respect for volunteering to do stuff from your superiors. And if you're an NCO and you end up and you need to, you got your squad told to do something, do it with them. You'll have the respect as long if you're actually doing this job with them. Because multiple occasions I have done stuff where I will do something for someone rather than make them do it. And I have had higher ups tell me not to do something because I should be getting a lower enlisted to do it. Like, I came out of a tent one year and there's a bunch of trash laying around, so I picked up the trash and threw it away. But that was my last field time, to let you know. I will be doing a home station AT, helping pack up the unit and get it ready to move to Texas. But I will be going to a different unit in the state I live in until February. And I do have. I still am a little scared to get out since I've been in the Army since I was 17. Because I did the split op program. But it needs to be done. I feel like I need to get out due to my physical, some of my ailments that make it hard to do the job. But as long as they got good, solid leadership and good, solid soldiers in the Army, that they can make it better morale wise by having good morale and leading by good examples. And that is taking care of soldiers even when they're not part of your team or squad. I actually had to do that this weekend. Soldier was assigned to our platoon, but was not assigned a squad or a team. But I ended up taking care of him anyways, as best as I could. But I've had soldiers come up to me doing these kind of things. I mean, I had a bum wrist, and I was still over at KP doing what I could to help them out. 1 year. And at that point in time, I've had soldiers coming up saying they wish I was in charge of them. I mean, I may be not able to pass the ACFT or PT test consistently. I may be overweight, but if I've got soldiers that coming up to me saying that means I'm doing something right as an NCO. And I would recommend, if you do join the military, that's what you do. I mean, be hard when you need to be, but be there with your soldiers during the hard times, the good times, and when cleaning dishes. And I will talk to you next time.